All right, this video is about another method for solving systems of equations. This one is called the addition method. Depending on different types of books that you read, this one can also be called the elimination method. So let's take a look at some examples. So our first system we're going to look at is 3x minus 4y equals 7. And 3x plus 2y equals negative 5. And so the question we have is when the second equation is subtracted from the first, the resulting equation is what? So even though it says addition, there's a couple different things. Remember, addition is the same as subtracting, or we can add a negative. So subtracting a positive, adding a negative is one and the same. But it's saying, what if we subtracted the second equation? So this whole equation was subtracted from the top. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So we would have 3x minus 3x is 0. Then we have negative 4y minus 2y gives us negative 6y. And then we have 7 minus a negative 5. So 7 minus a negative 5 becomes 7 plus 5, and so that's 12. So if we were to subtract the second equation from the first equation, the resulting equation would be negative 6y equals 12. So that's just one part of this. Let's take a look at some more examples. We dive more into solving by the addition method. So we want to find the solution. So here's our system. 7x minus 3y equals 4. And then 2x minus 4y equals 1. So the goal is we want to add them in such a way that when I add them, one of the variables is 0. And so what do we need to do? So sometimes we need to do something to just one equation. Sometimes we have to do two different things, one to the top and one to the bottom. And again, it's totally your choice. You can pick which variable you want to kind of eliminate out of here. It can be the x's or the y's, it doesn't matter. So if we look at the x's, notice that we can't multiply something by 2 to get to 7, and vice versa. We can't multiply something by 7 to get to 2. If we look at the y's, there's not something we can multiply 3 by to get to 4, and there's not something we can multiply by 4 to get to 3. So we are going to have to do something to both the top and the bottom. And so let's say we want to eliminate the x's. We have to think of a number that 7 and 2 both go into. And so 14 would be that. So the top one I'm going to multiply by 2. Because 2 times 7 gives me 14. The bottom I'm going to multiply by 7. But I'm actually going to multiply by a negative 7. Because again, I want to be able to add them. Adding them is much easier than trying to keep track of subtraction. So the top equation, if I multiply every term by 2, what do I get? So I get 14x minus 6y equals 8. The second equation, when I multiply by negative 7, I get negative 14x plus 28y equals negative 7. Now the trick is I want to add these together and see what happens. So 14x plus a negative 14x is 0. Negative 6 plus 28, you might have to pull out your calculator for that one. We get 22, so 22y. And 8 plus a negative 7 is 1. And now we can solve for y. So divide both sides by 22. And so we get y equals 1 over 22. That's part of our solution. We have to figure out what x is equal to. So we need to take that and plug it into either equation to figure out what x is equal to. So I'm going to look at the bottom, the second equation, as it was before we did all our fancy multiplying. And so plug that in. So we have 2x minus 4 times 1/22 equals 1. All right, so we have to remember how we multiply fractions. So we can write -4 as -4/1 times 1/22. Multiply straight across, so we get -4/22 reduces to -2/11. So we have -2/11 equals 1. And then we have to move the -2/11 over to start solving for x. So we're going to add 2/11 to both sides. And we'll have 2x on this side, and then we have to add. And so remember, adding fractions, we need a common denominator. So let me give us some more room so we can see how we add those together. All right, so we have 1, which we can write 1/1, and add that to 2/11. Means we need a common denominator of 11. And the second one is already there, but this one we have to multiply times 11. And so 1 times 11 is 11. Then we add the numerators and keep the denominators, so 11 plus 2 is 13. And last but not least, we need to divide by 2. So again, let's give us some more room. And now we're going to divide fractions. So in this case, we have 13/11 divided by 2. Remember, that's 2/1. And we never actually divide. We change it to multiply, but flip the second. Multiply straight across, so we get 13/22, and that doesn't reduce. So x equals 13/22. So what is our final answer? Our final answer is the point 13/22 and 1/22. Next example, x plus 5y equals -2. 2x plus y equals 5. All right, we want to find the point of intersection, which means that's the solution to the system. Okay, so if we go to add these, they're not going to work. So we have to multiply one or both by something to get to the other. If we look at the y's, if I just multiplied the second equation by -5, that would work. So let's multiply the second one by a -5. So the top one, we get x plus 5y equals -2. Nothing happened to it. The second one now becomes -10x minus 5y equals -25. And so now if I go to add those together, I have 1x plus a -10 gives me a -9x. 5y plus a -5y is 0. And -2 plus a -25 is a -27. If we continue to solve, then we're going to divide by a -9. And we get x is 3. Now the last step is to plug that into either equation to figure out what y is. So if we look at the top equation, again, it's your choice on which equation you pick. Plug in that 3. So now we're going to solve for y. So I got to subtract 3 from both sides. 5y equals -5. Divide by 5. So y equals -1. So our solution is the point 3, -1. That's it for this video. If you have any questions as you go through the lesson, be sure to ask your teacher. Have a great day.